Welcome to the Quality Conversation by Resume Wallet, the show where we explore what quality really means in talent acquisition. I'm your host, Serge. Today, I'm thrilled to be joined by Claudia Mackenzie, Senior Director of Talent Acquisition. Claudia, so good to have you on.
Thank you so much for inviting me. It's a pity we couldn't meet in person, but I guess this will do.
I've met you a couple of times, once in person, and I was very impressed with your experience in talent acquisition. And obviously, you've been in this space for a fairly long time, not to age you, but I'm always curious what the backstory of how people get into talent acquisition, because I don't think any of us have went to school thinking I'm going to be a recruiter or I'm going to be in talent acquisition. So tell me a little bit about your story.
Yeah, I think you're 100% right. I don't think we asked for this. I think it just kind of falls into our lap. So as you can tell, my accent, I'm actually South African. I immigrated to Canada 6 years ago. But when I completed my HR degree, I was obviously hoping for a traditional HR role. And I had my mind glued to that. So when I went and interviewed at an in-house recruiter, I actually met with the owner. And about 10 minutes in, she was like, listen, I actually don't think I'm going to forward you for this role. I have stronger candidates, but would you be open to a recruiter role? And in my mind, I thought, oh no, like I had my heart set on this HR role. I really wanted to get into it, but maybe let me just take this recruiter position and see how it pans out. And I can still continue to look for an HR role. And over 20 years later, and I'm still here. Sometimes I guess, life's detours lead us to the best destination. So still in recruitment, loving it.
That's an interesting point because I see this a lot. People that are coming out of school want to get into HR and fall into recruitment. Do
Yes.
you think the personality traits and just the skills required are different for, say, an HR business partner than a recruiter? Have you noticed that throughout your career now that, yeah, I was probably better suited as a recruiter?
Oh, 100%. I mean, and this is just my perception. I feel like we're almost a little bit in sales with a sales background because we need to be able to sell the opportunity, talk about why they should be joining the organization. So I do think there's some sort of sales element that needs to be involved. And a lot of people don't have passion for recruitment. I've seen a lot of HR business partners get stuck with it in their roles and they're just like, why did you do this to me? And then, like some people like us just love recruitment and we couldn't imagine doing anything else. What do they always say? There's a lid for every pot out there.
Oh, I agree. And I think similar to you, my background was a little bit different. I never really wanted to get into HR, but I started in sales, then
There we
got
go.
an opening to do a recruiter job. I'm like, oh, this is like right in my wheelhouse because it takes the skills that I have in sales, but also you get to work with people. You like very, very similar in a lot of ways. So I agree with that. And to your point, a lot of HR people don't do well in recruitment for exactly that reason. Talking to people is the thing they hate the most about the job, which is probably not good when you're a recruiter.
But you're right. I mean, who wakes up and goes, I want to be in recruitment? I knew nothing about the role when I got into it. And now I can't imagine myself doing anything else.
One of the things that I want to talk about, and it's a big topic of conversation in business and recruitment, HR, and talent acquisition, is quality. There is a lot of challenges out there when it comes to not only the quality of candidates, but quality of hire. So when I say quality of a hire in our industry, what does that phrase mean to you? Like, how do you define or measure what a quality hire is?
Oh, good question. I guess for me, it's not about how well a new hire performs. It's about how they integrate and add long-term value. Often there is this perception that we need to do speed. How quickly can we get the person in? And I think sometimes we need to slow down and hire the right people because I think real quality shows over time. It's about retention, performance, time to productivity, the feedback that you get from stakeholders. Quality of hire directly impacts the business outcomes. That's essentially what happens.
So when you look at organizations that you've led talent acquisition, do you feel that quality of hire is something that talent acquisition should own, or the actual business department, the hiring manager?
I think it's important for recruitment to obviously shortlist, but it's the hiring manager at the end of the day that essentially is going to be working with this person. So there needs to be some sort of match. And I know it's not matchmaking per se, but
Yeah.
just as much as we're interviewing them, they're interviewing us. Our job is to shortlist, and the idea is for them to get placed in a role where they feel comfortable and can see a long-term career trajectory.
One of the hot topics in the industry as well is just the amount of AI generated applies. There's obviously these lazy apply tools that are applying to 800, 1,000 jobs in a
Yeah.
day. And there's also candidates leveraging ChatGPT or any other type of tool to make it look like they're more qualified than they normally would be. I'm just curious on your end, are you noticing that with your applicants? Are you noticing less qualified applicants coming through your funnel?
Oh, 100%. I think people are obviously not reading the job specifications properly. And like you said, putting it through ChatGPT, where it's picking up those keywords and then obviously it comes back as the shortlisted candidates. But for us, if you're screening the candidates properly, you can identify if they meet the criteria or they don't. And that's the key where I think the human element is still important, where the recruiter can phone and say, Serge, do you have a license? How many years have you been in the role for? Where you can iron out, do they fit in the culture of the organization? And also, what I also like is the potential, spotting potential in candidates that I think we often miss. But yes, we've seen an uptick in unqualified candidates applying. And I guess it's our job to sift out who the right candidate for the role is.
Well, that makes it challenging, right? Because if you had to go through maybe 30% of the candidates that you're receiving now, how is that impacting your recruitment team? Because that is a lot of work.
It's 100% a lot of work, and we're implementing new systems in the company I currently work for to try and streamline the process and see if we can shorten that. But not everything's always AI. It's AI is
Yeah.
a great starter and a help, but still quite time consuming to sift through the candidates, the top candidates that you have identified and that you feel could be suitable for the role.
I agree. I think the human element will never really go away. It's going to become even more challenging in the next couple of years because AI is definitely taken precedence with a lot of job seekers. It's the number one tool that they leverage to be able to customize their resumes, try to fit the criteria, and also the economy affects it as well. It's the labor market has shifted in the last couple of years, especially here in Canada, where it's a lot more employer driven. It's been really an employee driven marketplace for probably 10 years before that. So we'll see what the next couple of years looks like. I'm curious on that
But you're
end when
right.
it
I
comes.
think a lot of people have always said to me, do you think we will still need recruiters in the future? And I believe we do. I still think the human element is still important for us to play, and there's a role for us to play in the organization. But some people believe it could be a dying role.
I've seen that, and I do think the role of a recruiter is going to change dramatically, and I think it's going to be for the good because if we look at how we're going to leverage AI, I think one of the biggest things as a recruiter, I hated this stuff, right? Was
Yeah, me too.
booking interviews, like just some of the admin work that comes with a recruiter, I think will be replaced and us recruiters can really focus on the two key items, which is our job seekers and our hiring managers and having really good relationship and communication with both. That's actually a really good thing for the recruitment space, but that's where I see it going.
No, I agree. I agree.
So in saying that, obviously the candidate expectations are shifting a little bit. They have a lot of tools that they're leveraging. They're coming out of school in a different labor environment than maybe I came out, you came out. What have you noticed with the candidate expectations and how they're looking at their marketplace and what type of jobs they should be qualified for? Do you see them applying for jobs that maybe we wouldn't have applied when we came out of college?
Interesting question. I feel you've hit the nail on all of those. Today's world is eager to try something new. I don't think they necessarily know where they exactly fall in, but they're trying to see where they will fall in. And for me, I feel like some of the candidates that we interview are looking for purpose, for flexibility, for growth, for values alignment, where maybe in the past it was more of a paycheck.
Yeah.
Now it's about where can they add value in a company.
Yeah, we're definitely seeing a shift in the last 10 years, which can be very challenging for organizations because the skills needed and the amount of experience maybe doesn't matter as much, but we're definitely need to be in a better place of aligning what we need from our candidates and what they're looking for, which will be probably the challenge for the foreseeable future. When you look at your talent acquisition departments, what are the key metrics that you look at? Is there traditional recruitment KPIs that you're responsible for? Which one do you think are important that every talent acquisition department should be looking at closely?
You actually mentioned it earlier on. I think back in the past, we never really had to track data as much as we do now, but it's the same metrics that I think most organizations use. It's the time to fill, the cost per hire, the source, obviously, to help track efficiency and the trends. I believe data is useful. It doesn't always capture everything, especially long term fit and impact, but the qualitative factors like team fit and growth potential are key to lasting success.
Yes. It's interesting because I've always been a big proponent of as many recruitment KPIs, but I've realized over the years that without taking those metrics, like let's leverage time to fill as an example,
Yeah.
executives don't really care. Like, what is that impact to my business? So, say we fill our roles quicker, this is going to mean this amount of revenue that we can bring in that we couldn't if we hadn't filled those roles. And I'm starting to see that trend, or at least I'm hoping I'm starting to see that trend that this is where talent acquisition managers are looking for, taking our metrics and translating it into more an overall business metric. Are you seeing that?
I think they're hoping that the tools that we're bringing in will shorten the time to hire, but I still see that some roles have been vacant for over a year. And I guess that's when the business thinks, do we really need the person if it's been open for that long? And then secondly, if it has been open that long, what is the issue? And is there something we can do about it? Do we need to put a strategic recruitment strategy together to figure out how can we place this role? So it's two parts. I'd like to think that it's not that important because I feel like we should be taking the time to find the right candidate,
Yeah.
but it still feels like it's quite an important metric.
Yeah, and I think the metrics that we leverage are going to change as the market environment changes as well.
Yes.
But like time to fill is one that's always been used. The one that you mentioned that I like the most because it really looks at efficiency and being cognizant of what your budgets are is where are your hires actually coming from? And
Yes.
I've been shocked talking to TA leaders saying, well, I don't know what works, but we get candidates. I spend this much on Indeed or LinkedIn or whatever the case is, but I don't actually know where my candidates are coming from, which I feel is a big miss because obviously if 80% of your candidates are coming from one source, you should double down on that source. In saying that, you should have a variable of different partners, but don't spend money where you're not getting results is basically the message here.
Agree with you. I think a lot about it's ROI now. Where I'm at, it's especially about return on investment. What are we doing? Why are we doing it? What's it bringing? What's the value it's bringing for us? So you're right.
Yeah, I agreed. So, Claudia, I have some rapid fire questions for you that relate to talent acquisition, but not always. So, I'm curious,
Yeah.
what has been a book that has changed your view on business or HR or talent acquisition?
I read a book called Drive by Daniel Pink. It was quite interesting. It's not always about rewards. We always talk about like people move for salaries, bonuses, and titles. And Daniel Pink talks about the autonomy and mastery and purpose that people are actually looking for. Um, not just always being HR looked as a strategic driver. I mean, as a strategic driver, not just as a support function.
I love it. Definitely check out that book. I have it in my bookshelf actually right here. I have to take a look at it.
Just a different
Are
angle.
you a podcast person or no?
Besides your podcast, I don't listen to anything else.
There you go. What's your escape though? What's your show? What's your Netflix show?
So,
What's your TV drama, I guess?
so I actually love watching crime. Um,
Okay.
I love always figuring out who did it. It's my escape watching, true crime documentaries or podcasts and listening about, how that happened. How did they catch the person? So that's a little bit of escape of mine.
That is definitely a trend. All the biggest podcasts in the world is true crime, and I've thought about starting a podcast in true crime
I think we should. I'll join you.
yeah, there's an audience for it for sure. Curious for you, where can listeners that are listening, watching this, where can they connect with you?
So if they would like to connect with me on LinkedIn, I'm there. Please connect with me.
Please do connect with Claudia. She is very well connected across the market and extremely well experienced. And Claudia, this was an absolute pleasure. I'm so glad we finally got to do this and get your insights of what's happening in talent acquisition right now. So on that note, thank you. And thank you for listening to the Quality Conversation brought to you by Resume Wallet.